Look who moved again. I feel like one of these days I'll become a booktuber. Is today that day? No.
In my time between reading and ignoring my student loan debts because they are calling me now because now it is time to pay them back and I don't have a full-time job to do that. So Sally Mae, stop stalking me. Anyway, I've been realizing my grandma status since my birthday, and that was, oh my gosh, that was actually like a little over a month ago. Oh no.
As I've realized, I have come to the conclusion that I must accept that I have turned the ripe age of 24, but I'm also very close to 25, which basically means I'm 30. So besides drowning in my sorrows, I drown myself in that milky substance that is called the Beatles. I decided to analyze their mental health at this age. Who did it better at this age? Me or the Beatles? And this is the conclusion of that portion of the question to introduce my ongoing segment that is called
When I'm 24. For the sake of my butt, and I do mean for the big sake of it, I was inspired by Stephen Colbert's Meanwhile segment. So please, for the love of God, do not sue me because I'm already $60,000 a year in debt and don't need any more phone calls. Thank you. So here's where we're going to begin first. We're going to start with like a really fast summary. Okay, so the backstory on each of them. Growing up, basically coming from a non-psychiatrist seems pretty traumatic. Whose mom died first? Gosh. Okay, so Paul's mom died when he was like a teenager, really bad age. John's mom died when he was a teenager. Actually, but going back even further before that, John's mom abandoned John, and then so did the dad, and so he was living with his aunt. And then I think his uncle died when he was young, and so basically, sum it up, everyone died. Ringo basically was born, I don't know if he was born with an illness, but like had an illness and was like hospitalized a lot, like most of his childhood, so like didn't get to experience childhood, but boom. This is the worst. George, I think George was probably the only normal one. I don't know, he grew up in a nice little family, and if he had any problems, no one really talked about it, so love that for him. The next section, working a hard day's night. Literally. They whipped out their songs so fast, almost like how they whipped out their penises so fast. There is actually a story about that. Like, there's an article. I'll let you digest that. So basically, since they were the first to create the whole British invasion, where basically British musicians just come over to America and make it big. Basically, they came to America to become a workaholic because that's the American dream. Being a workaholic. I love it here. But the pressure of Beatlemania, basically, they couldn't even go to the bathroom without being almost trampled. So bad time to whip out their penises then. So this is going somewhere, I swear it is. Not only are they facing the biggest height of their careers, you're basically also dampening trauma. Almost like when every time I have like an intrusive thought or reflecting on my own traumatic experience, what did I do? I replaced it with work and other people. So not exactly that. With John, like he was married at the time and then basically just beat up his wife and then basically abandoned his child. So, and slept with other people. So, like, infidelity. Paul, kind of a womanizer up until he met his wife in 19 year. George was known as the quiet one. I know he's very intellectual and was very, like, thought before he spoke, unlike some people or presidents. But I feel like with all that pressure caused him to also kind of close up, which I see. Ringo, I don't know. I feel like Ringo was the best at handling it, but also I could see if he had gotten like sidebarred a bit. But you know, like any stardom comes, you know, the paparazzi, the fans, like that's just too much to take. This was like an intense version. Like who cries like this over people?
And Paul McCartney, if you are listening, Adrienne from Brooklyn loves you with all her heart. I love you, Paul, and please come to the window so I can just see you. I saw you smoking.
So this is when drugs were introduced. We'll have to see it. And I'm not talking about antidepressants, which I'm on. But really, that's what they should have done. But we're gonna like switch gears a little bit. And we're gonna talk about the drummer before Ringo. Peter Best. Pete Best. Pretty much. So basically he was the drummer before like the Beatles, like high claim to fame. I don't know what this roller coaster is. My mind. All of a sudden Ringo basically came in because of this lovely producer, George Martin, and kicked the drum into Pete's. Yeah, anyway, kicked Pete out. Like, oh, and put Ringo in. As you can see, Pete Best was very depressed and whatnot, but he was so grateful for his life because he saw how the pressure led to them going to drugs versus where he had a nice family and just livelihood and what have you. So, come see, come saw. I think that just means okay. What's that? Que sera, sera. Same thing. There wasn't a mental health professional for these young ones then, because mental health was not touched upon in the 1960s, and like what it could have saved so many generational issues. But at that time it was like peak when all their troubles, not all their troubles, but like all their actions with like women, money, because they're buying houses, cars, things of that nature at that point, and just I guess like each other, because you know things are starting to turn. And maybe not at that point, it wasn't until like 1968 when they wanted to all kill each other. I personally feel like their own mental health affected everyone around them. That brings up a good case on their own manager, Brian Epstein, who actually died of, I don't know, it was a mix of, I want to say like antidepressants and like alcohol or something. So basically left them without a manager and they had to manage themselves. And like, who at 25 knows how to run a business? Like, who? No one. Well, nowadays it's easier, but like back then, no. So that's why the Beatles also kind of collapsed. It's not all Yoko's fault. Kind of is, but they're all grown up. Anyway, now we're transcending into like how those core years, those core maybe like 1964 up until 68 affected their livelihoods later in life. Besides John being shot. I don't even know how to begin with that. Ringo in like the 70s up until I want to say like the 80s or 90s was an alcoholic. Yeah, he finally got off the stuff. I don't know when, I'll look it up, but John was doing, I don't know, whatever he was doing, but you know, he was advocating for peace and whatnot, and a lot of that I feel derives from not being able to get his own personal peace with his own traumatic experience. So he's like, well, let's make peace with everyone else. And then finally he kind of got peace, weirdly enough, the last 5 years of his life, until some fool decided, hey, he's a phony because like la 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 la. And this is why I've never read Catcher in the Rye, because the murderer thought he was inspired by that book to kill John, and I don't want to get into that mindset. We can only take one mental thing at a time. We don't want to get in the mind of a murderer. No. But yes, but he would advocate for peace in his spare time. Like, did he abuse his wife and kid, like, over the past few years? Yes. Was he making it up later? Yes. Anyway. Getting better all the time, I see. Paul created the band Wings to fly away from his trauma. Until his wife of 20 some odd years, about the age I am actually, died of the same disease that his mom did. And then, you know, he kind of spiraled and married this evil lady, and then that went all just a big ruckus happened, and now he's good, I guess. He's chilling, making music. George, I personally feel like, found the best path, or at least, you know, like for him, like everyone's path is different. But considering that, I don't know, I don't think George had a whole bunch of traumatic experiences besides him saying that being in Beatlemania was really traumatic for him. Like, I think he found like a peaceful solution. Like, he decided, hey, I'm gonna explore down this like religious route. I want to do my own thing. You know, I'm gonna be independent before the Beatles break up. So like, he was set, and that is why he had the best-selling album like right after the Beatles broke up. So showed them the quiet people always step up the ladder, and as a quiet person myself, weirdly enough, it will happen. Okay. This is kind of the final wrap up of just their mental health in general. If I were, well, I am 24. Okay, so where were they at when they were 24? Still had traumatic experiences, didn't get to sit with it, had to deal with the highest level of fame, still had to live up to that potential, like after the Beatles, especially for Paul and John, like their beginning albums, like after the Beatles, were kind of like until maybe like 71. So that must have not been good for their egos. The back burners of the group were going like above them. Then they also took the American route at the end of their career and started suing each other. Yeah, because, you know, who knows business at, well, they were 27 around that age, so like, but still, that's a lot for your 20s. You're supposed to be having fun, and yes, Beatlemania might have been fun, who knows. I mean, I guess so, because they reflect on it a lot, but compared to where I am, where I'm just here sitting at home talking to a camera, I think they did pretty well for it themselves, all things considered. Just hard work in general, it all paid off. It really did.
That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
I hope I can make something as special as they have. Like, yeah. And I think that's the end of my rambling. Yeah. Gosh, now I just want to like lay down on the floor and listen to some Beatles music. Alright, I think I'm gonna do that. I think that's it.
So everyone asked me, who's my favorite Beatle? Could it be the one that's on my shirt? Considering that I have, wait, this huge thing of Paul McCartney. I don't know. You tell me. I mean, they're all great, but I don't know.